What's going on, everybody out there? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional. And before I butcher this brother's name, I want him to say his name. I'm terrible with this stuff. You know, how do you pronounce your name, brother?
I would like to start with Bismillah Rahman Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours, to Brother Ron Brown. My name is Salman Sheikh, and the honor is mine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us this evening. Really appreciate you. So now we're going into. I want to get straight to it. We're going into the Moorish Masonic connection now exposed. So I
Yes.
have the slide here ready to be pulled up. Do you want to go straight into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we go. Boom. Moorish and Masonic connection. Moorish influence on Freemasonry.
All right. So what I'll do is, like, when I'm done with each slide, I'll just say next slide.
Okay.
All right, perfect. All right, greetings and peace, everyone. This presentation is about talking about the Moorish and Masonic connection that we see in Freemasonry. One is that is not often talked about. We see that with Al-Andalus and the Moorish presence in Spain, how our Moorish brothers and sisters were not given enough credit. So this presentation is for that purpose. Next slide. Now, this presentation explores the deep and often overlooked relationship between Moorish civilization, Sufi traditions, and what is known today as Freemasonry. Rather than treating these as separate systems, we approach them as part of a continuous stream of knowledge that moved across Africa, the Near East, and Europe through trade, scholarship, and initiatic brotherhoods. The goal is not just comparison, but restoration, restoring the Moorish contribution to global knowledge systems. By examining symbolism, structure, and historical testimony, we begin to see what is called Freemasonry today reflects a much older legacy shaped by Moorish influence. Next slide.
Hey. Disclaimer and dedication.
So, this presentation is for entertainment, free speech, and educational purposes only. It does not promote membership in any organization, nor does it teach ritual participation. It encourages independent research, critical thinking, and deeper engagement with history beyond surface level narratives. This presentation and this work is dedicated to Brother Ron Brown of the NYP Show, to Moors, Black Masons, the 5% Nation, and all of our brothers and sisters who have laid the foundation for us. It honors those who committed to truth, knowledge of self, and reclaiming narratives that have been suppressed or rewritten by white supremacy.
Nice.
Next slide. So the scope and thesis that I put together is that this presentation examines the ideas that Freemasonry is part of a trans-civilizational system rather than a purely European creation. It integrates historical records, symbolic parallels, and initiatic traditions to argue that Moorish and Islamic influence is central to its development, rather than appearing suddenly in 1717. Freemasonry reflects continuity, systems that existed long before formal organization. These systems were preserved, adapted, and eventually institutionalized in Europe.
Mm.
Next
Next
slide.
slide.
So, the Mediterranean Highway. The Mediterranean basin functioned as a corridor of knowledge exchange connecting North Africa, the Levant, and Southern Europe. Ideas in architecture, mathematics, and philosophy moved freely across these regions for centuries. Freemasonry's symbolic structure aligns with this environment of exchange, making it unlikely that it emerged in isolation. Instead, it reflects the shared intellectual culture shaped heavily by Moorish presence.
Mm.
Next. Now, the Mediterranean Pass, not too many people know about this. The Mediterranean Pass served as a recognition system allowing safe passage between individuals across religious and political boundaries. It demonstrated a shared symbolic language among Christians, Moors, Muslims, and Jews. Its existence proves that initiatic systems transcended religious divisions, reinforcing the idea that Moorish and Islamic traditions were integrated into what later became Masonic structures. So the Mediterranean Pass was like a system of degrees, grips, passwords, recognition systems, where many of the European Knights Templars and Knights of Malta would be able to pass unmolested. So that's something that the Moors gave them. Even Christopher Columbus's navigator was a Moor.
Right.
And all of these systems that we see is that our brothers and sisters are not given enough credit. If you look at Hollywood, right, in the medieval times, the movie The Black Knight with Martin Lawrence, and as soon as they see him, they refer to him as a Moor. So that's like Hollywood kind of telling you the truth as well. Next slide. So the primary testimony we have about the Mediterranean Pass is in 1846. Brother L.C. Delude describes recognition among Christian, Turk, Moor, and Jew within Masonic context. This testimony came from an experienced Mason and not a modern reinterpretation. Such evidence shows that Moorish participation was acknowledged historically and only later minimized or removed from dominant narratives. Next slide. So this is from the 1846 English Grand Lodge source from the United Grand Lodge of England, where you have Brother L.C. Delude. He talks about, right, that the higher degrees of Masonry are of Christian origin. Knights of St. John of Jerusalem, Knights of Malta, Knights Templar, and how basically you have these different systems and how the Order of the Knights Templars commenced 728 years ago, like way before the 1800s. And at the time of the Crusades, those knights had frequently occasion to cross the seas and divert countries of non-believers in Christianity. They were instructed and provided with certain passwords, signs, and tokens to pass their way unmolested among the Algerian and Moorish Masons. So you have an English United Grand Lodge of England source in their archives, which gives credit to Moorish Masons, right? You have all these people talking about this is clandestine or he's clandestine, right?
Mhm.
Especially talking down on our Black Masons and Black brothers, right? But, you know, you look at the British Museum, we don't give them the credit of being the foundation of archaeology and history and geography. They stole that from everywhere else. So this system of initiation is also taken from our melanated brothers and sisters. Next slide. And here we have it, right, from Brother L.C. Delude on the study of Masonic antiquities, where they talk about the Mediterranean Pass. And he says that the craft is to be ruled with genuine brotherly love, and how the system of recognition, which basically the Knights Templar, Knights of Malta, all these people went to North Africa and the Near East. They took this knowledge back to Europe and they repackaged it in what we know as Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, OTO, Thelema, the Crowley stuff. It
Mhm.
all comes back to Sufism and Islam, as I've demonstrated in my videos. And anyone that wants to look this up, you can look it up. It's an English Grand Lodge source, which gives credit to Moorish Masons for the Mediterranean Pass. Next slide. So now we see that while Masonic rituals often use Christian language, their function operates on universal ethical principles. This dual structure mirrors older initiatic systems where outer forms differ from inner meaning. Moorish and Sufi traditions use similar methods, encoding deeper truths within symbolic language accessible across cultures. Next slide. Now, Islamic civilizations preserved knowledge in science, philosophy, and architecture during periods where Europe experienced fragmentation. This included geometry, astronomy, and metaphysical systems. These sciences later re entered Europe through Spain and Sicily, forming the intellectual foundation for many European institutions, including the early Masonic structures. Now, even if you look at Hugo de Paynes, right? Hugo de Paynes, he was a Moor, and his grandfather was a Moorish Sufi. He comes from the Pagani family in Sicily. If you look at the Pagani family crest in Sicily, it's the head of three Moors on there. And that presence, while the Catholic Church was persecuting many of the people that were seeking knowledge or trying to bring enlightenment, the Moorish presence in Spain brought Europe out of darkness into the light. And you have these different systems such as Kabbalah and let's say Gematria from the Abjad system. Everything emerged out of that presence, including that presence on the Jesuits. Ignatius of Loyola was from Spain. And we even see with Yasuke, right, the African Moor who went to Japan, that he was a part of that system as well. That influence is there, but these people don't want to give us any credit. They want to call us bogus and clandestine. And that's the bottom line. And I'm somebody that's actually been in the regular recognized system as well. So even if you're regular recognized, they still don't like you and respect you. That's why you got to have your own self integrity in all of this. Next
Mm.
slide.
Hold on, that's a bomb.
So Al-Andalus became a center of learning where Muslims, Jews, and Christians studied together under Moorish rule. Libraries, schools, and translation centers preserved ancient knowledge, even taught them how to bathe because they were stinking all the time, and the Moors taught them how to bathe. This environment directly influenced European intellectual growth and introduced symbolic and philosophical systems later reflected in Freemasonry. So this system of guilds was basically taken from many of the merchants and the groups from the Middle East and North Africa at that time where these different initiatic systems were taking place. The Knights Templars studied under the Hashashin, right? The Islamic Shia Hashashin, and they took those sciences back to Europe and reinterpreted it in what we know as Freemasonry. Next slide. Now, the sacred geometry, Moorish architecture demonstrates mastery of sacred geometry, where patterns reflect cosmic order and divine principles. These designs were instructional, not merely decorative. Freemasonry's geometric symbolism echoes these same principles, suggesting inheritance rather than independent creation. Most people don't know my home country of Pakistan, right? It was originally a part of India, Hindustan, before the British partition. The language Urdu from Pakistan, if you look at the Library of Congress in America, Urdu is classified as a Moorish language. And you can look this up, the African kings who ruled India. The Moorish presence in India is also there.
Mm.
Even Queen Victoria's mentor, she had a person, a Moorish individual with her who was teaching her Urdu from Pakistan and teaching her the arts and sciences. But the British racist royal family never gave him any credit. That's basically Victoria's Secret. That's where Victoria's Secret comes from, right? So that's basically it. Is that the deep? You know, the funny thing is, brother Ron, the deeper you dig, the darker it gets. Next slide. So the Sufi metaphysics, we see that in Sufi traditions, they emphasize inner purification, right? You have to purify your heart, symbolic ascent, and alignment with universal order. These teachings focus on transformation of the self through discipline and awareness. Now, the Masonic allegories reflect similar journeys, indicating that these ideas may have been adapted from Moorish and Sufi frameworks. It's about perfecting your character and chipping away at your rough ashlar until it becomes a smooth ashlar, trusting God and not fearing any danger. And the second degree, the fellow craft, doing the arts and sciences and studying and becoming better. The third degree, that one day you're going to die and leave this life, and Allah is testing you through good and bad. So these lessons were already provided in Islam, right? About trusting God, about improving yourself, and about knowing that you'll die and being a contributing member of society. So these teachings were later adopted into their systems. Next
Okay.
slide.
Before we go to the next slide, so I want to talk about Sufi traditions emphasize inner purification, symbolic ascent, and alignment with the universal order. These teachings focus on the transformation of the self through discipline and awareness. Now, before you said that, or in the midst of you saying that, you spoke about the heart, right? Like purifying the heart.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you explain that purifying the heart? Because you know what I've learned through Moorish science and actual science is that you know I would say actual science, more metaphysics, uh, anatomy, if you will, as well. Um, the heart has a signal. The brain has some a signal. If you connect the two and bring the two in harmony, like, do you know anything about that?
Yes, my brother. So in my studies, I spent a lot of time with the Sufi teachers in Pakistan, with the Naqshbandi Sufi order, with the Qadiriya Sufi order of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. It's truly been a beautiful journey, and it's like what Noble Drew Ali says, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, peace be upon him, that the closest place you can meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in your heart. And the stations of the heart, the qalb, in the Sufi path, is where Allah resides. So purifying your heart means that you have good thoughts, good habits. You wish well for yourself and others, knowing that we are all mirror reflections of that one divine truth, understanding itself through itself, the hidden treasure, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created man and jinn so it could be known and worshipped. So if we know that in our heart and if we polish our hearts, that's when we see the divine reality and truth, that the all is the all and I am that I am. And once you purify the chambers of the heart, then that kind of opens up that inner initiation. You could have people, Brother Ron, who have the 33rd degree, who are Grand Master, Past Master, all of that in between. They went to the Hajj and Umrah, but some of them are dirty hearted people. They don't wish well for themselves and others. The real initiation happens for those who are truly pure of the heart. I had this one Naqshbandi brother. He went to the Hajj and he said when he was doing that rite of circumambulation, going around doing the tawaf, he felt an entity take out his heart and weigh it to see if he was worthy and put his heart back into his chest. That doesn't happen to everyone. Most people, they might go to Mecca and Medina. For them, it's just like a tourist attraction. They might just go, okay, take some pictures here and there, then they come back. But that true initiation happens only to a few. And, if you know, you know. And, if it happens to you, it happened to me. That I was found worthy. My heart is pure. I love everyone. I don't hate anyone. I'm doing the best that I can to get through this human life. Those inner realities get opened up to you then. That way, the purification of your heart. Allah is in our heart. Allah is closer to us than our jugular vein. The Moors are telling us the same. The 5%ers are telling us the same. I am Allah. The Sufis are telling us the same. There is that inner reality that we all share.
Right. Indeed. Indeed. Now, can you explain techniques, or that's sacred
No,
to purify
definitely.
the heart?
So, what you could do is master your breath. There was this is something I've done practically myself. So, a Sufi teacher and myself practically, if you have a meditation technique, if you recite the name Allahu, Allahu, like you say Allah, like when you, let's say, inhale, and then you do the who when you exhale. So, doing the Allahu zikr, and also if you recite Surah Al Fatiha, right? 111 times, that opens up the chambers of the heart. This is a Sufi secret that I'm sharing. So reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, which is A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdinas siratal mustaqim, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Basically, that Surah Al-Fatiha is a contract. You don't you don't rely on anyone except Allah. In doing so, if you rely on anyone or anything else besides Allah, you're committing shirk. So that is a straight contract, that Al-Fatiha, that you're doing with Allah, that you're the first, you're the beginning, you're the Alpha, you're the Omega. All my trust is in you and no one but you. And if you recite that 111 times, that opens up the chambers of the heart. And
Mm.
that's like, plus mastering the breath. You master the breath. That's that's it. There's no other secret to tell you. Master your breath, master the heart, and that's the best you could do. Live a good, clean life. You'll be always be loved, protected, and provided for, and all the obstacles will be removed from your life.
So now the zikr is has anything to do with the breath or no?
I mean, it depends if you do it in like sequence, because the prayers are something that you just enjoy, right, in a rhythmic fashion. You don't rush it. You don't like try to get through it. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Do the prayers. Now, there's like one teaching that if you wake up in the morning, you recite Bismillah Rahman Rahim 100 times. The whole day, is before you even leave the house, the whole day, the shaitan and the devil and his minions will not be able to get close to you or attack you in any way.
Okay. All right.
And I know that's definitely useful living in a city like New York and Philadelphia, where I'm at.
Yeah, man.
Protect your energy.
Yeah, New York is crazy. And I'm sure Philly is too.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
see, let me go to the next slide. Fatwa
So
orders.
the Fatwa orders, the Fatwa brotherhoods practiced ethical conduct, initiation, secrecy, and symbolic instruction. They emphasized humility, service, and moral discipline. Their structure strongly parallels Masonic lodges, suggesting a shared organizational blueprint rooted in Moorish traditions. So now it's like what we see with the Demolay order, right? They have an order for the youth. They're teaching them how to be good, moral men, teaching them the arts and sciences, teaching them like ethics. Some might even have self-defense classes. So that system was taken from the Moors, because the Moors and that Islamic presence introduced chivalry into Europe. And, people can look this up. I'm not just making it up. This is true. The Moors not only brought Europe out of darkness into the light, but introduced the different orders of chivalry into the European system. And Fatwa is just like what we see in Demolay, where the youth are being mentored. The importance of this, even what Father Allah says, is you got to look after the babies, because they are the next generation. If you mold and take care of your youth, then they will serve you in future generations. Now, the situations we're seeing in Detroit and the Flint area and these different places where the flash mobs are happening, I implore my melanated brothers and sisters, get your kids, train them to be good human beings, teach them that fatwa, that ethics, and to stand in their power, and not let these devils and demons and white supremacy tarnish their image and try to put them in prison or do anything against them. What you got to do is you have to defeat them with your knowledge, with your success, with your ethics, and you have to basically overcome those challenges. That's what fatwa is. You take care of your kids, that foundation. That's what the demolay system and masonry in general, what they do in their lodges also. Next slide.
All right. So what do you say? Some dudes be oh nah, man. Brother. All right. All right. Templar contract.
So the Templar contact, what we see is that the Knights Templar operated in regions influenced by Moorish civilization, engaging in diplomacy and coexistence. This exposure created opportunities for knowledge exchange. Such interaction challenges the idea of isolated development and supports the possibility of Moorish influence on later Masonic systems. So the Knights Templar were there in Al Aqsa Mosque, and the interesting part is that they spent years in the Middle East and North Africa, basically studying with the different mystical groups and incorporating that knowledge into their own guilds and fraternities and taking that back to Europe, rather than saying that, oh, in 1717 the British came out with something and invented something on their own. That's not true. It was influenced by all of the cultural exchange that took place,
Hmm.
right? And that's the thing. These different systems, and I spent so many years fighting back against this in terms of spreading the knowledge, making sure the Muslims and the Moors were given their correct credit. And yeah, that's the best we could do, is we have to claim our intellectual heritage, right? Back from those who claim that it's exclusive, but yet they have the nerve to call other people bogus, right? These systems existed way before them. And I've been a part of that system, whether in England or America. I've been in the regular recognized system in more than one country and jurisdiction. You could do everything right, yet these people will never like you or respect you. That's
Wow.
why that's why I resigned honorably in good standing, and I'm happy doing my thing as a free agent.
Wow. Why do you think it's like that? I think people are just miserable, man. Like,
They're miserable. They're just jealous that they're not like us,
yeah.
right? I mean, white culture wouldn't exist without black culture because they wouldn't have anything to steal from.
Hold on. Hold on. Now, before we go to the next slide, I wanted to ask you a question early in the podcast. I know this is not neither here nor there, but I want, as far as like your heritage, Pakistan, India, right?
Right?
Now, the the conflict that happened between Indians, Pakistanians, Bangladeshis, I
Hmm.
think that's the right terminology, right? Or right
Yep.
word.
Yep.
Bangladeshis. The conflict that they have there is brought about through the British, or
Of
how
course, my brother.
yeah.
Everywhere the British and the French, these devils, God cursed these devils. Wherever they went, they caused damage, and damage beyond repair to our people. I was recently in an Uber, and the Uber driver was a Black American brother, and he looked at me and he shook his head. He said, "My brother, slavery did irreparable damage to our mind and psyche and our soul." And he was upset. He said, I can never imagine in my life of all of our people coming together in one unity. And I see the same problem in Pakistan and India and Bangladesh. Genetically, it was all one land and they were all the same people.
Right.
Now, the British created this divide and conquer mentality. Hey, you're Pakistani or you're Indian or you're this. They're all the same people. It's the same language, same food, music, religion, food, etc., etc. And then they created the Kashmir issue so people would continue fighting while the city of London Corporation controls the elites of the Pakistani side, of the Indian side, give them a lavish lifestyle, and keep their people in slavery. We see the same thing in African countries where the British colonies were. Some of the elites, they're living lavishly in Paris and London in exchange for keeping their people in slavery, right under that same system. That's the unfortunate truth that I saw even when I visited London. And people think that America is a free country. Forget about it. That the the British crown tentacles are even here, believe it or not.
I'm sure. For sure. Now, yeah, that was a great explanation. Thank you. So now 1717 revised.
So if we look at the 1717 origin story, right? The Grand Lodge of England formalized Freemasonry, but they didn't create it. Existing traditions were organized into a structured system at that time. Now, understanding this distinction is key as it reveals deeper roots that extend into Moorish and Near Eastern traditions. Most people don't know about the ancient Arabian Freemasonry. If you go to the desert tribes of Algeria and Tunisia and other places in the Middle East, they have an ancient Freemasonry tradition where the lineage goes right back to King Solomon. There is no Hiram Abiff, there is no third degree. That
Mm.
was added later. Their tradition goes straight back to Solomon, and those people lay their life on the line for you. It's like what the Magi is described in the Mummy movies, and that's exactly what it is. You have the signs, grips, tokens, passwords, initiatic vows, and brotherhoods that exist. But these people came out of the blue, and with the 1717 story, yeah, we came out with everything. Now, you know what hurts me the most is like what I even see with the Prince Hall brothers. Like, I love them, you know, and I'm sure some of them love me. I love them. But it's like that whole where you're just asking and fighting for recognition. Oh, England recognizes us. England recognizes us. Then they're putting down their fellow black brothers who are quote unquote clandestine. And just
Mhm.
all the nonsense that I see on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube.
Mhm.
Like, why even go through all that? Like, what are you doing to make each other's lives better? What are you doing to make your communities better? What are you doing to make your families better, yourself better? You're fighting for the white man's recognition who doesn't even give a crap about you,
Right.
right? So, and it's your system. He took it from you,
Right. Like chasing your own tail.
right? Oh, and we have people, I'm not going to say any names, but there's a few people in the house that we have, right? They call them house Negroes that are too busy defending this quote unquote regular recognized. Oh, you're not recognized. You're not this. You're not that. But what's the Masonic charge? Every person has a claim upon your kind offices. What are you doing to demonstrate that practically? Zero, nil.
Check, check. Hold on.
Next slide. Now, the suppression of the Templars was driven by political and financial motives, not purely religious concerns. Knowledge carried by such groups did not disappear, it migrated. The migration may have contributed to the preservation of initiatic traditions within new structures, such as what we see in the Masonic path. Next slide. Now, Scotland served as a refuge for traditions outside strict papal control, allowing alternative systems to survive and evolve. Scottish Masonry later preserved chivalric and symbolic elements that align with earlier initiatic traditions. Because when the Knights Templars escaped, they went to Scotland. So Scotland was like, I guess, the first institutionalized Grand Lodge. It's not England. But what the British royal family did was they kind of hijacked it from them. That's why even with the British Grand Lodge, you see that it's always the head of the royal family that's the Grand Master for God knows how many years, and it's still the same person. And when he dies, it's going to go to another royal. So they kind of have that whole system hijacked, the regular recognized system under them, where you don't have no power unless you're kind of recognized by them.
Mm. Wow. Before we go to the next slide, I just want to let y'all know I'm moving around a lot because my abs hurt like crazy. Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to stick this through.
I hope I'm doing a good job, brother Ron, for you and your audience.
Oh, you're doing great, brother. You're doing great.
So so the Scottish Rite includes degrees rich in the symbolism, chivalric themes, and the philosophical teachings. These reflect layered inheritance rather than sudden invention. Its structure suggests continuity of older traditions potentially linked to Moorish and Near Eastern systems. Now, if you look at the Scottish Rite degrees, right, the Knight of the Brazen Serpent, the Knight of St. Andrews, those are Moorish degrees for those that have went through that. And I went through the Scottish Rite system. A lot of the degrees, they are Moorish and Islamic in origin, but you got to be able to see through it. You got to be able to see through the veils, the symbolism, whether it's the Knight of the Brazen Serpent or the Knight of St. Andrew degree. It reveals itself to you gradually, and it's all theatrical, but with moral allegorical lessons. Next slide. Now, the 33rd degree. Now, the true oath of the 33rd degree is that in that final degree, the initiate is given a shocking revelation that he is symbolically the spiritual descendant of the true Knights Templar. He is instructed to uphold the legacy of Jacques de Molay and to swear a spiritual vengeance against the historical enemies of the Templars, namely the Knights of Malta. This vengeance is not one of violence, but of remembrance and truth-telling. But for those that are a part of that world, when they see the Knights of Malta, it's like on sight for them. Now, the candidate learns the truth that was buried by the church, that the Templars carried hidden knowledge from the East, safeguarded by mystics, Sufis, and Moors. So it's like Scotland, right? Scotland, Scottish Rite, surviving Knights Templar. So basically, that's what the 33rd degree is, that you're a spiritual survivor of that lineage. And their job to basically uphold the Masonic egregore, but also the legacy of Jacques de Molay. So, and if you look at the hat, right, the white hat of the 33rd degree, it has like the red Templar cross on there. What you see in the Exxon gas station logo.
Wow.
Next slide. Now, the Templars were accused of worshiping Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, right? Now, this is a cross that was found in a Knights Templar church in Anatolia, what we know as Turkey today in the modern times. And if you look at the cross, right, it has an engraving of the Prophet Muhammad's image on top of the cross. So that's basically what it was. They were accused of being crypto Muslims in secret and worshiping Muhammad in
Oh
secret
man,
as well.
didn't I say something like that on Facebook? I think you said something underneath that post.
So this is a cross they found in a Knights Templar church in Turkey.
Wow.
Yep. Next slide.
Oh man, I got a question behind that. But all right, go ahead, go ahead. I'll let you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Go ahead, please.
So Christianity and Islam is really one and the same.
It is, and Islam tells you that, where in the fifth surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you that I revealed your religion in stages, in degrees. And with Islam, that was the final revelation. There
Mm.
is no Islam without the Torah and the Injil, the Gospels. But from the Islamic perspective, they believe they had corrupted the message of Moses and Jesus, peace be upon them. They never asked to be worshipped as gods. That's where Islam kind of came in and corrected all of that. The same message, same revelation, but Allah tells you in Surah 5, I revealed your religion in stages and degrees, and with this revelation I have perfected your faith. So it's the same religion.
Okay.
Now, the Arabization of the Knights Templars. Now, the charges against them accused them of being crypto-Muslim with worshipping of Baphomet, Mahomet, Muhammad, right? In the French spelling. And I showed the cross,
Wait a
right?
minute. You just did something. I wasn't even thinking that. Hold on. The charges against them accused them of being crypto Muslim with worshiping of Baphomet, Muhammad, and Muhammad in denial of Christ. Wow, that's kind of how I'm lost there now because how you get Baphomet, Muhammad?
Well, because if you look at this is something that the white supremacy and the Western traditions have satanically inverted, right? Where, hold on, excuse me for a second. Let me see.
This is deep right here, y'all.
Yeah, so basically, thanks for waiting. The Baphomet represents Insan al Kamil. In Sufism, you have to become Insan al Kamil, the perfect man that has alchemized the divine feminine and masculine within yourself.
Mm.
That's what Baphomet is, the animalistic side, the feminine side, the masculine side. You have to become the Insan al Kamil, the perfect human being, right? Through chipping away at your imperfections and becoming that smooth ashlar. Now, Baphomet, that was like, that whole thing. It's like that cross that I showed you that was found in a Knights Templar church with the supposed engraving of the Prophet Muhammad on there. They were persecuted also on a Friday. holy day for Moors and Muslims and Muslims in general. They were persecuted and burned at the stake on a Friday. And them that spelling variation of Mahomet, Baphomet, that is what it is, the Insan al Kamil, where you alchemize those masculine and feminine principles within yourself and become the perfect being. So they, in today's, I guess, occult traditions, they kind of satanically inverted all of that. So moving forward, the Knights Templar made treaties in the Holy Land with Muslims, contrary to French interest, and betraying Frankish armies to Muslims during periods of conflicts. Even when the Knights Templars were at Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Muslims would come and pray, and many of the Christian pilgrims would like, why are they allowing them to go in there and pray? So that stuff was happening. Robert of St. Albans, he was an English Knights Templar who converted to Islam and married Saladin's niece. In the 1270s, the Templar commander in Sidon, Matthew Sauvage, also spelt Sermaj, and the Mamluk ruler of Egypt, Sultan Baybars, were blood brothers. Hugues de Paynes, the co-founder and first Grand Master of the Knights Templar, was a descendant of Moorish Sufis. His grandfather was a Moorish Sufi who instructed him into the sciences, and he comes from the Pagani family tribe. If you look that up, from Sicily, it has the heads of 3 Moors on there. So we have to claim back our intellectual heritage. It's ours, not theirs.
So you spoke about that earlier in the podcast, the Picani tribe, right?
Yes.
Now they're from Sicily. What was? I mean, I'm from America, right? So we always look at skin color before we
Uh-huh.
even delve deep into the DNA, right? So um what was the pigment like? Was it like dark, or was it, did they have woolly hair? Did they have like slick, you know did they have curls? Did they not have curls? You know what I mean?
So if you look at the Pagani family crest, you see that the Moors are dark skinned and that they have curly hair and woolly hair as well. If you look at the movie True Romance, that one scene where the guy being tortured kind of pokes fun at the Italian mob guy, that you and your mothers before you were all bred by the Moors, kind of like trying to antagonize him.
Yeah.
So True Romance always comes up in my mind when I think of the Moors in Sicily breeding all of those Italian white women's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a history I got to do the knowledge to, because even in Supreme Wisdom, Christopher Columbus is regarded as half original.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just like, how is he half original? You know what I mean? So
Yep. Yep. See what happened with the Reconquista in 1492 is they not only wanted to expel the Moors out of Spain, but everywhere where there was a Muslim Moorish influence, they wanted to eliminate that, including in the Americas. The people were already here.
okay.
Next slide. Now, the Middle Eastern symbols, the symbols such as temple imagery, the numerology, and the cosmic architecture originate in ancient Near Eastern traditions. These entered Europe largely through Moorish and Islamic transmission in Spain, reinforcing the argument of cultural continuity. So this story, in 1717, these guys got together and they made masonry. Then they have the nerve to call other systems French masonry. Like, give me a break. You stole that just like the British Museum did. You can't be the sole authority of all decisions on this earth. But our minds are so divided and conquered. There might be people in this chat right now in your live stream probably talking bad about me. But that's the thing, we're dealing with a society where we got to get out of that mindset. We got to claim our intellectual heritage and be united with each other.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
Yep. Next slide, brother. So the great architect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the concept of the great architect of the universe allows for a universal understanding of divinity without strict doctrine. This aligns closely with Islamic and Moorish philosophical frameworks where unity and order are emphasized. Now, the concept of believing in a great architect, that's Tawheed in Islam, where you must believe in a supreme being, the creator, Allah. And it doesn't matter what religious path you follow, right? Everyone meets on the level. And it tells you that in Surah 2, verse 62 of the Holy Quran of Mecca, that Allah doesn't care what religion you follow. As long as you're an upright, righteous individual, then on the day of judgment, ye shall have no grief or punishment. So it's not about you being a good Muslim or a Christian. It's about you upholding those principles. It's not just about going to the mosque or going to the church. If you're not treating yourself correctly, your fellow man correctly, then all of that is meaningless. It has to be practical. So that Tawheed, belief in a supreme being, right, that comes from Islam, what is now translated into Masonry.
Check.
So the Moorish legacy, the Moors were custodians of ancient sciences and played a key role in preserving and expanding knowledge across disciplines. Their influence laid the groundwork for the Renaissance, even if their contributions were later minimized. So even if you look at the video game Assassin's Creed, right, the second one, where the assassin, the Ismaili Shia Hashashin, works for the Medici family, and there's like a war between these different elite families, where the Medici's fighting with the Borgia, and they're like all have like this secret war with each other. So the presence of the Moors is very heavily there. If you look at Otello's Children in Venice, like all of that stuff is there. But of course, we're not given credit for anything. That's the unfortunate truth, and that's where good brothers like you come in, I come in, others who are doing good work come in. We gotta claim all of this back.
Yes, sir.
Next slide. Now, the Moorish builders, they talk about these guilds that shaped the architectures and made the cathedrals in Europe and all of that. But the Moorish builders introduced advanced architectural methods that shaped European construction styles, including the Gothic design. These builders influenced the guild systems that later evolved into speculative Freemasonry.
Mm.
So that system, they took that from the Moorish Masons, as I showed in that English Grand Lodge source, right? Where Brother L.C. Delude is also talking about it, that there were Moorish Masons, there were the signs, grips, passwords. They kind of incorporated those teachings, and the builders, they were already present in Europe, and it was all the intellectual cultural exchange that happened where we are now today. Next slide. The suppression of history, of course. European narratives often removed or minimized Moorish contributions to science and philosophy to support a Eurocentric worldview. So it was all about them, right? Anything that makes them look good and feel good. Despite this, the symbolic and structural evidence of Moorish influence remains embedded within institutions like Freemasonry. And you have many Grand Lodge systems or Grand Lodges. They have an Oriental room, and they give credit to the Moors in Spain, which I'll show you a picture later on. Next slide. Now, we see that the first country to recognize America post-independence was Morocco. And even George Washington wrote a letter to the Sultan of Morocco, thanking him for his friendship and control over the dominions. How even the American Supreme Court, there's a bust of the Prophet Muhammad outside of it, giving him credit as the greatest lawgiver. You look at the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii on the top left, and this is from the 1500s, 200 years before America's 1776 founding. And you see the two Moors with the red fezzes and the red clothes, dark-skinned Moors, holding up the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii before it was taken over by the U.S. And we see the last king of Hawaii, King Kamehameha, who was an Islamic Shriner. And we also see Jamal el-Afghani, who also played a key role when he visited the parents of Noble Drew Ali in Chicago. So Thomas Jefferson's Quran, also the Declaration of Independence, the right of religion, because if we look at how Islamic society was in Moorish Spain and during the charter of Mecca and Medina. The freedom of religion and live and let live, they were taken from Islam, right? Where anywhere where there was Islamic rule, other religions and minorities were protected and they were not persecuted in any way. So they took that from those principles. Now, look at the Holy Sepulchre Church in Jerusalem. It's the tilers of that church, right? Using a Masonic term, the guardians of that church is a Muslim family.
Mm.
So, and even Saladin was part of the Brotherhood. He protected Christian sites and churches and allowed Christians safe passage in and out of Jerusalem, while the Christians, on the other hand, butchered everyone in sight that was not like them. And the nerve that they have of talking about tolerance and inclusivity. So it was anything that was under Moorish and Muslim rule, it prospered. Anything that these people touched, it died.
Mm.
So we see the American foundation of the Moorish presence that was already here, even with John Hanson being a president before Washington. And it's that these foundations were taken from stuff that was already here, and those people were already here. Because if you look at the definition of an American from the 1858 Webster's Merriam Dictionary, before now they removed it, they talk about Americans being copper colored indigenous people that were already here. But now that definition applies to the descendants of European born in America. You know, this is my, um, I guess, plea to the American Supreme Court. Like, these people came from somewhere else and now they got the nerve to discuss about birthright citizenship. And most of those people that came on Ellis Island on those boats probably slipped through the cracks, you know, illegal aliens.
Right.
So yeah, all of this is interconnected. And one thing I noticed in my experiences in Pakistan and these different traditions is that the how do you say, like, the elites of that society, especially the Sufi traditions, they know who our black brothers and sisters are. It's like what Iran is doing, right? They're putting Tupac on top of their missiles and sending it to Israel.
Mm.
They're telling the black and brown people of America that you're our brothers, you're not our enemies. And whether it's even with like Fard Muhammad, right? They said he was a silk merchant from the India Pakistan area. You have the Ahmadiyya order, which is heavily connected with the Nation of Islam. Jamal al-Afghani, he visited Noble Drew Ali's parents. He was a Masonic Sufi master, whom Madame Blavatsky referred to as Serapis Bey, right? The brotherhood of the Luxor light that they had. So all of these people and their traditions, whether it's the Crowley stuff, OTO, more like Masonry, all of this stuff comes back to us. But we get made feel lesser than, like, oh, you're not welcome, or we don't recognize you, or you don't belong with us. I just want people to know that it's all yours. You don't need their acceptance or their microaggressions. Next slide. Now, on the room on the right hand side, it's called the Oriental Room in the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, right across from City Hall. This is where, when I was a part of the Royal Arch, this is where I got my Royal Arch degree. Right in this room, the Oriental Room, which is basically resembles the presence of the Moors in Spain. So you have a Grand Lodge in America, in Philadelphia, that has a room dedicated to the legacy of the Moors and what they did for Masonry. Many lodges meet here. They raise candidates here. They enter them, initiate them, pass them, raise them, exalt them through the Royal Arch. So that legacy is there. Even on the left, that's the King Faisal Mosque in Pakistan, Islamabad. This was constructed by a brother from Turkey, right? So we see the pillars, the arches, the compass, and but especially if you look up the Shriner buildings in America, the Shriner architecture, and if you look up the Moorish Oriental rooms, um, there's more than one Grand Lodge that has an Oriental room, and they dedicate that to the legacy of the Moors. So basically these people know who you are and your legacy, but the people here don't know who they are. That's the, tragic truth of it at the end of the day. Next slide. So the movements such as Moorish Science Temple and Prince Hall Masonry preserve elements of Moorish identity and philosophy. And one complaint that I get from the Prince Hall brothers is that the church culture has been incorporated into Prince Hall. So, but there are many who are kind of like revising and changing many of the traditions, especially the next generations. Now, these traditions emphasize self-knowledge, nationality, and spiritual awareness, echoing the earlier Moorish teachings. So, what Noble Drew Ali, the Sufi sciences, the Moorish sciences, what they're teaching you is to reclaim your nationality by reclaiming your sovereignhood, right? Where you don't need to be free and accepted by them. You got to accept yourself, and you got to accept your fellow brothers and sisters and break out of that mental and spiritual slavery. Once you do that, then you exalt yourself to a higher level. And when the people in the community become better, the world automatically becomes a better place. And that's the whole teachings that I get from Prophet Noble Drew Ali. May peace be upon him. Next slide. The conclusion before I head off into the Q&A session is that Freemasonry can be understood or better understood as a system shaped by Moorish, Islamic, and Near Eastern traditions later refined within Europe. Recognizing this does not divide history, it completes it, restoring the balance and acknowledging the full scope of human contribution. So if you know that, then you become more stronger.
Right. Indeed, indeed. Great presentation, brother. Great presentation, brother. I really appreciate you for coming out this evening. If you have any questions in the chat, we're open. We're open for questions right now. Hold on one second. Great presentation. A round of applause for the brother.
Thank you. I hope I did good.
Nah, that was perfect. That was perfect. I mean, it was simple and plain. As is taught in the 5% Nation, keeping it simple and plain. Peace to have to exit the class. Thanks for the food, brother Ron. Salman. Yep. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you for coming out. Come back again, God. I like 5%ers in the chat. I like 5%ers in the chat. Any questions? Any questions before we close out? Brother, tell the people where they can find you, to reach you, your social medias and your emails and things like that, if you give that out.
Yeah, definitely. My name is Salman Sheikh. You can find me on YouTube, on Facebook. My email, salmansheikh911@gmail.com. And this stuff is just like, this presentation here is just like barely scratching the surface. If you examine all of the degree work, the verses in the Quran, everything in what we know as Freemasonry comes back to Islam, which I can do for Brother Ron Brown in a part 2, right? Covering like where exactly in the Quran, what degree correlates to what verse in the Quran. So it's like this presentation is given the Moors credit, but it's like this is just barely scratching the surface. It's like it gets a lot deeper than what we just did here. And yeah, I thank you all for your support, and the honor and privilege is mine. And the best thing you could do for me as a thank you is be united as your fellow brothers and sisters. Don't let somebody else tell you that you're not recognized or you're lesser than them or you're bogus. No.
Indeed. On that note, thank you for coming out this evening. Really appreciate you. We got to have you back for part 2.
Yes.
And we will build on that. Thank you to everybody for coming out this evening to check us out. And we are out of here. Peace.